Hi, this is what we're trying to achieve in 3D Studio Max. This is a render inside the cube that we created in class. We've assigned a kind of a plaster looking material to most of it, and I've split the floor off and assigned timber to the floor. Now what I've got over on this side is a blow up of a second render using a different base model. Okay, this one was the IGS file type, the IGES file type. Okay, and over this side this is from the STL file. So what we're looking at is to try and kind of look at the smoothness of the object. This is quite a curvy object, and we would want it to render and look quite smooth and kind of sleek. So you can see here there's kind of traces of the faceting. We can see that showing up here, and it does kind of detract from the image. You can especially see it here where you can see it's kind of where it's been broken up into strips. Okay, so that gives away the rendering nature. Kind of lets the cat out of the bag. So if I zoom in at the same level, 300%, so I've got 300% on both of these. Okay, this one rendered for considerably longer than this one. This one was only allowed to render for 5 minutes. I was really just wanting to check to see how kind of stripy it was going to look. And you can see here that it's a lot less stripy. So even at a 5-minute render, this was nearly a 5-hour render. Okay, so it's a long time. Sorry, it's 5.5 hours. That's why the lighting looks much more accurate. Okay, but this does spoil it. You could kind of take that away in Photoshop. You could try and kind of mitigate that somewhat, but really you want to kind of render straight to the file. So at the 300%, comparing the two, this one definitely looks less stripy already. It's this kind of bit that's really bad. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is walk you through setting up the scene, and we'll use the STL model for the base. Okay, so I'll just drop Photoshop down and get 3D Studio into action. Okay, so what we're going to do is pull in the STL file first. So I want to File, Import. Okay, I've got my folder here. So it was the Rhino Cube STL that we're going to bring in. Open that. Okay, so we've not got a lot of choice here of things to do, but it's going to join things together very accurately, 0.01 millimeters, and it's going to apply smoothing as well. So the higher the angle you specify, the more smoothing should happen. So let's make that a little bit bigger then. Let's make it 45 degrees instead, just to make sure it catches every kind of junction. Okay, and then OK. Takes a few seconds to pull it in. Okay, down here in the perspective viewport. Okay, at the moment that is set to render as if it were a model made out of clay. So I'm going to use this tool in the bottom corner. If you can't see all 4 views, remember this button in the very bottom corner toggles between the selected viewport and full screen. Okay, I'm going to use the orbit command just to turn that around so you can understand the model again. Okay, and instead of clay render just now, I'm going to change that to wireframe override so we can see inside the model. Okay, the blue might not screen capture too well, so what I'm going to do is click on the object. So use the select objects button here, click on the object, and I'm just going to make the shade a bit lighter. So it's that shade at the moment. Let's make it a little bit lighter so we can see it. Okay, and what I want to do first is break off the floor of the model. So I'm just going to deal with the geometry first. So click on the object, and you can see that it's an editable mesh, so we can start busting this up a bit. So I want to edit this at called the face level. Okay, so I click on face level. I only want to select a strip of the shape. So change from a crossing window to a soft window. Okay, I'm just trying to capture the floor. So in this viewport, if I do a selection that just goes through that line, you can see then the faces have lit up red, and we've only got control of the floor there. So back over to here, we can detach that, and we'll call it floor. Okay. I also want to make sure that this area doesn't get smoothed. So this is a little bit trickier. So if I do a selection from outside the shape that takes in just this area, okay, it needs to be a bit bigger because it's missed out some of these, so we'll make that a tiny bit bigger. The same selection, but a little bit bigger. Still missing those, so let's make it a bit bigger again. That's better. Got them now. Okay, but it's also picked up some on the outside of the model. So what I'm going to do is hold the Alt key and do some selections around the outside. And you start to see some of the faces disappearing now from the selection. Okay, so it's just got the tunnel area. Okay, then over on the Modify panel, I'm going to remove the smoothing for those triangles. So I know there's some active there because it's showing up as an active smoothing group, and I'm going to clear those. Okay, so it's taking the smoothing off those faces only. Okay, click anywhere, single click to deselect, click on this strip here to stop it being editable, and let's give this a bit better name. So if the bit we broke off was the floor, then let's call this the walls. Okay. Right, so we've dealt with adjusting the geometry. What we'll do now is trying to get inside the shape, set up a camera and some lights. So we're going to add to the scene. So this is the Create panel now. So we're creating a camera, and we'll use a target camera. If you know all your camera terminology, you could use a physical one, but if you're not that au fait with the terminology, target is better. Okay, so your first click is where you want to be stood. Okay, and your second click is for the target of the camera. Now, on purposely, I'm making these not in line with each other. Okay, you can't actually set them in line with each other when you first put the camera in. So what we'll do is we'll change the filter to cameras, and we're going to move these camera and the target until they're in line with each other. Okay, so I've got control of the camera only at the moment. Okay, press F12 and it gives us the transform type in where we can say where it's going to go to. So I'm going to change the X coordinate to 60. Okay, now click on the camera's target, just the target, and we'll put the X coordinate for that to 60. So that means they're both in line with each other now. Okay, if you click on the line between them, you get control of both parts of the camera. Use this part of the transform gizmo and we can move the camera around. Okay, we want to see what the camera's looking at, so click the word perspective and we want to view through camera 001. Okay, I want to move off the floor. I'm at the very bottom of the model at the moment. You can see in this viewport we're down here. So activate your camera viewport and you can use the pan tool, so just hold your middle mouse button to bring your camera up more into the model. Okay, still a bit difficult to see what's going on there because the camera has got a very narrow field of view. So click the camera once, modify the camera and change its lens length to 20 millimeters. So we're seeing more of the model. It's a very tall shape, this space. So what we can do is activate in the camera viewport. Hi, sorry about that. Phone rang and I had to answer it, I'm afraid. So what we've done is place the camera, and what we're going to do now is tell this viewport to show us what the camera would really create, what it would really render. This is a bit misleading when it's like this. Okay, so I'm going to go to the camera word, show safe frames. Okay, now this proportion here is based on the rendering size. So if I go to the render setup, you'll see that it's set at the moment to 640/480. So that's a 4:3 ratio. So that's 4, that's 3. Okay, because of the shape of the space, it would be better if we had something that was a bit taller. So what I'm going to do is set the width to 1000 pixels and the height to 1500. And you'll then, if I click up back in this slot, you can see that the render shape now takes on a bit better proportion, kind of same as the room. So I need to see where the floor is now, so what I'm going to do is change from wireframe to clay. So I can see here that I'm seeing probably a bit too much floor. So if I use the middle mouse button, I can bring this down a bit and we get a bit more kind of balance in the image there. Okay, so that looks good. With cameras, you must check that you're not inside the walls, and that's what's happening at the moment. My camera is just inside the wall, so I'm just going to push it forward a bit until it's inside the room, just marginally. Okay, there's what's called a clipping plane, and it gives you a bit of a misleading view in here. Okay, the next major step is to add some lighting. So we create a light and we use a sun positioner. Okay, come back to your top viewport and click and drag and you'll create a compass. Okay, let go when the compass is a reasonable size. Okay, then watch out for the north position. You're going to drag that round. Okay, and then the final click is how far the actual sun is away from the model. Okay, it doesn't have just above the model anywhere is sufficient. So just dragging out, have a look in this viewport. That's a reasonable distance to be away. Okay, and what we need to do now is decide on the sun's position and angle. So we modify the positioner. We're looking for the location. So I'm trying to find a geographic location. Here we are. It's saying it's in San Francisco. Okay, I want to go to Europe, and Edinburgh is the nearest place to us, so that will be sufficient. Okay, so the angle changes to suit our world location, and then it's a case of choosing time of day, month of the year. So at the moment it's set to 12 noon. I'm going to take the daylight saving time off so it returns to the south position, and I'm going to go forwards a couple of hours. Let's go to 3 o'clock, so the sun's got a chance to come in through the slot in the front of the model. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll stop the video just at this point, okay, before we start looking at the materials, because otherwise this could end up being a bit of a long clip. So we'll pause this one just now.